Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm discussing the Season 4 finale of Parks and Recreation, Win, Lose, or Draw, written and directed by series co-creator Mike Schur. This is one of my personal favorite episodes of this show, and it's also really a midpoint of the series since there are a total of 7 seasons and 126 episodes, which includes the lovely one-off special that aired last year in April of 2020. That special did a great job of checking in on the characters, seeing where they are at this point in their lives, and also reestablishing the essence of these characters and their relationships with each other. And though it wasn't plot heavy at all, it still was a lot of fun because we got to see also cameos of other quirky, lovable characters that we see throughout the show. And also, most importantly, the special raised money for Feeding America. So it did well in the ratings and it raised a lot of money. So that's really, really wonderful. But this episode in particular, the reason I love it so much is a number of reasons. One is because it just kind of, for me, summarizes everything that I personally love about this show, and in particular about our protagonist, Leslie Knope, played by Amy Poehler. That Leslie is someone to truly admire and look up to and to strive to be, with her passion, her perseverance, her positivity, that she cares so much about the town of Pawnee, that she would do anything for these people in Pawnee, that she takes such pride in her work, that she just gives her all with everything, and that she truly believes in the goodness of people and that she can make a difference. So everything about her is just something truly to admire. And two, the reason I love this episode is because it's a well-deserved victory for Leslie, because throughout this whole season, we see her running for city council. So then with this episode, is she going to win or is she going to lose? That's it, So it's a well-deserved victory. And also, I love this season. This is probably my favorite season, season 4, because also we see Leslie and Ben finally get together. I love that relationship. Ben Wyatt, played by Adam Scott. I really do love the relationships on this show, both romantic and platonic, and we see both highlighted in this episode in particular as well. And in general, season finale episodes of shows are extra special because if it's an overarching story, they have to tie up that storyline and then also set up storylines for the next season. So we see that in this episode as well. So in this episode, it's finding out the results of the election, and it's great guest stars because we have Paul Rudd as Bobby Newport, kind of just the totally dumb pretty boy candidate, which is so funny. I love how they brought him back for the reunion special too, because he introduced it, and it's just so fun. He's like, oh yeah, so I'm just here to introduce my good friend Leslie Knope, and then afterwards like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, he doesn't know about the pandemic. This is so dumb and perfect. I love Paul Rudd. I've mentioned Paul Rudd before, one of my celebrity crushes, because he's just fantastic in any show and movie he does. He's wonderful. So he's a great dumb character though, but plays it so well. It's just so funny when he's saying how, oh, I'm gonna vote for Leslie Knope, and then everyone laughs and he's like, what? I am voting for you. And then she says, you're not voting for yourself? He's like, Leslie, you can't do that. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. It's just so funny. But poor Leslie though, because then we see how, again, establishing the storylines for the next season, when the campaign manager for Bobby Newport's campaign, Jennifer Barkley, played by Katherine Hahn, she approaches Ben with an opportunity to work for a congressional campaign in Washington. So then he's on the fence about it. So then when he tells Leslie about this potential job opportunity, then she's like, oh, okay, that's a big deal. You're going to take it? He's like, well, I don't know yet. And then she's saying, okay, well, we'll talk about it, hash it out. I'm just going to go vote real quick, fulfill a lifelong dream of mine, a real true moment of happiness, and then we'll talk about it. Like, poor Leslie. So the moment when she votes for herself is so emotional too, and she just has a moment of this is really happening. And then Bobby in the next poll just saying, oh, Leslie, can you help me out? Like, I got ink on my hand. Like, he's just a total dumbass, but again, so charming in that Paul Rudd way of his. It's just so funny, but oh my god, so hilarious. And then we have a little subplot with April when she accidentally erased all the files, and then her man Andy, and he's like, first of all, you did the right thing calling me, and you did the right thing hiding under this table. Like, so stupid. So your man is here, we're gonna figure this out. I love their relationship, Andy and April, because I love April's one of my favorite characters too on this show. Another besides Leslie Knope is one of my favorites. April, I would say Ben, and then definitely Ron Swanson for sure, played by Nick Offerman. I love the relationship between Nick and Nick and Amy. Honestly, they're good friends too in real life too, but between Ron and Leslie. But with April and Andy, their relationship is so great because they are so different. Andy, played by Chris Pratt, is just this total dummy too, and then April, played by Aubrey Plaza, is just so kind of creepy in a lot of ways and just kind of hates so many things, but she loves Andy, and their relationship is so wonderful how we see it grow throughout the earlier seasons. Then when they just spontaneously decide to get married, I love that episode too, and it's just great. There's so many great episodes in the show. I love also the episode when Ben and Leslie get married, and they kind of just do that on a whim too, and that was so wonderful. And the harvest episode, and the episode with little Sebastian when they do a memorial service for him, and of course with the classic 5,000 Candles in the Wind, and that song returns in the special, which is so great too. The series finale too for this show is fantastic, so I may have to revisit this show in general, just maybe talk about another favorite episode of mine, but for now, back to this episode. So then again, setting up storylines for the next season. By the end of this episode, when Andy was trying to distract her, and then Donna comes in and is able to find all the files for her. Donna, played by Retta. So she's a great character too, Donna. And so then when he was just like, okay, let's have more ideas for you, for your potential, like if we're going to start new lives together, potential new jobs, new careers for you. And then at the end of it, April says, babe, like all the jobs you put were related to police officers. She's trying to become a police officer. So then we see that then in the next season, in season 5, but then we see how it pans out when unfortunately he doesn't end up getting the job because he failed the psychiatric test, I think, something like that. And I love, that's also in the episode Leslie and Ben, when the two of them get married, when Chris, literally, he's great, played by Rob Lowe, when he has a moment where he's very serious and he tells Andy that moments of failure, we can learn from them. They are moments that define us as human beings, how we move forward from moments in failure, something like that. That's a really great line too. But I'm jumping around because, gosh, this is what happens. I haven't talked about this show, so I have a lot of things to say about it. I've only done a full watch through of this show once, though, a few years ago when it was still on Netflix. Now the entire series is available on NBC's streaming service, Peacock. But Chris is a great character. Then, of course, Ann Perkins, played by Rashida Jones. I love the friendship between Ann and Leslie, that Leslie just kind of puts Ann on a pedestal. It's just so funny, though. And that just true bond with them, that Ann sees the best, like Ann respects and admires Leslie so much and vice versa. It's wonderful. Their friendship is so strong. One of the best female friendships on TV, I would say. Also, the established Galentine's Day, that's from this show, which is a real thing now. You know, an unofficial, official holiday, February 13th. So that's really great too, to celebrate female friendships, all of the wonderful people that you admire, whether it's your female friends, sisters, aunts, mothers, you know, so that's wonderful. It's just celebrating people that lift and support you. And so that's really what I love about this show, the positivity to it, that it's about these people who never give up, in particular, of course, Leslie. And then, of course, there's also Tom Haverford, played by Aziz Ansari. And he doesn't have much to do in this episode, though, but we see throughout the show that he has all of his failed business ventures, most notably with, what is it called? Something Media 720 something. Now I'm forgetting. Now it's going to bother me. Oh, goodness. Entertainment 720. Okay. I had to look it up to double check. And then, you know, his business associate and weird friend, John Ralphio, who's so funny. He makes cameos throughout the show, too. Like, he just always sings songs, things, and he's so obnoxious, but it's so funny with his crazy hair, too. He's so great, played by Ben Schwartz. So all these characters have cameos in the reunion special, too. And, goodness, but... So in this one, it's just Tom saying, oh, me and Ann are going to get back together. And that really was a weird, odd relationship that they tried to make work, and it just failed miserably. But then Ann and Chris end up together, though, eventually. And then they move when they, like, leave the show, the two actors. But That's interesting too. But so with Tom, like he had that failed business venture. He had also his snake juice, which was just a whole big mess. But so it's just funny. And I love his friendship with Donna because that's a classic thing to treat yourself. Like you gotta treat yourself every once in a while. They just have a day dedicated to treating themselves to just all these luxurious things. It's wonderful. So I love their relationship. And going back to Leslie, though, so this episode is structured so well. I remember the first time watching it, which, as I said, just once, doing a full watch through of this show. I may have to rewatch the whole show again because it's such a great show. But it's so great because we get to see both sides of, hypothetically, Leslie losing, but then, of course, when she wins. So we get to see both reactions and how she's freaking out, obviously. And even at the beginning of the episode when she's saying just kind of a lot of emotions going through. And then she bites her phone, has cream cheese. She's like, this isn't a bagel. Like, she took the time to smear cream cheese on her phone, then takes a bite. And then, like, poor Leslie. Like, you didn't realize as you were doing that first. So that's a great sight gag. That's so silly. And also gotta mention, of course, Jerry / Gary / Terry / Larry. His real name officially is Gary Gergich, but for the longest time they call him Jerry, played by Jim O'Hare. And he's just kind of the punching bag of the group. In this episode, he accidentally forgets to vote for Leslie. And then at the very end, when Ron outs him saying, Jerry forgot to vote, and she's like, damn it, Jerry. Like, oh, poor Jerry. They're so mean to Jerry. But it's a great joke because though he's kind of more or less so incompetent at his job, then we see his home life, that he's a loving father, a loving husband. So he's just like, he just kind of goes along with it, but he's just very sweet guy though, despite being a punching bag with everyone at work. So that's just so dumb. But to go back to, in particular, Ron and Leslie's relationship, I love that platonic friendship, and that though they are so fundamentally different, where Leslie is someone who is so positive and loves government, loves her job, and then you have Ron who hates government and kind of just wants everything to stay the same. So it's just great seeing that though they are so different, how much they truly care about each other is what shines all the more, makes that relationship that much stronger. And so we also see Anne helping Leslie by distracting her, just kind of doing the punching bag thing. It's like, okay, how long's that been? 22 seconds. Like, okay. And then when the results come in, then she says, well, Bobby is in the lead. She's like, okay, let's try to go for another 8 more seconds. So that's great. Her just kind of distracting her in that sense. And then when Ron talks to Ben, and that's just so funny. I was thinking, oh, like, no, give him whatever he says, a whiskey. It's like, clear alcohol is for women, rich women on diets. And then he tells him, like, he goes on that whole spiel about how he likes things to stay the same, but that with him and Leslie, it just, as in Ben and Leslie, for them it works, that they push each other and they always strive for greatness and work to make things better. Whereas with Ron, he goes on that whole monologue where he says, I've driven the same car since 1991, I've had the same haircut since 1978, like all this stuff, and that he just likes things to stay the same. So it's interesting that that's his character's philosophy in a way, that hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know. So, but he's just such a funny character, so set in his ways, obviously, but he's great. And again, he really comes through for the people he cares about, most notably with Leslie. So that's really wonderful too. So then when we think that Bobby Newport is the winner, but then, as in we, the audience, but then they're saying, no, we demand a recount because 21 votes. So again, seeing poor Leslie, though, when they announce that Bobby's the winner, and then she's just laughing. It's like, why are you laughing? Oh, because my dream is dead. Poor Leslie. Oh, goodness. And it's just so funny because since Jerry forgot to vote, and then Ron just said, you better hope it's not just a very close race. And then, of course, they're saying it's one of the closest races. And there's also that woman, Brandy Max, the porn star, who was in the lead at one point. She's like, oh my God, I'm going to lose to Brandy after all this. But then they do a recount. And then meanwhile with Leslie and Ben, when they can't find Leslie at one point, and then Ron goes to talk to her. Because again, as I said, I love the relationships on this show. So I love how Ron is able to reach to Leslie in a way that Ben can't, and Anne to Leslie in a way that Ron, like, you know what I'm saying, is that each character is able to help Leslie in their own unique way. So with Anne distracting Leslie because her being her best friend, she knows what will help her in that moment. And Ron uplifting Leslie, which then gives Leslie the realization that she needs to kind of put her own needs aside because she was ready to kind of settle down with Ben. They were going to get their lives back because the whole time they've been officially dating, Ben was helping her run her campaign. He was her campaign manager. So then when Ron talks to her and then she says, Ron, I'm going to feel terrible if I'm letting all these people down. Like, everyone gave all of their free time helping me with this campaign. And then he says, well, we didn't do this because we just did it for the fun of it. We did it because we care about you. And it's just so sweet. Again, saying how much he in particular cares about Leslie. I love that. It's just so wonderful. And then when he says how that's what you do when you care about people. You support them, win, lose, or draw. And so that's really the motivation for Leslie. So then when she is talking to Ben, when she says, I have to give you something, and it's a callback to the season prior when Ben put his own feelings aside, that they had to kind of put their relationship on hold because then she was going to run for a city council. And then he opens up the box and it was a like Leslie Knope candidate pin. So then with this, she opens it up and it's a Washington monument saying, you need to go to Washington and we'll make it work, 6 months. And then I'm just being selfish before, but this is a huge opportunity for you. And then he's saying, well, where'd you get this, this monument? It's like, oh, I have like 50 in my office. Like, oh, of course. So it's just so cute. So showing that support that she didn't want to hold him back. Like, she knew he had to do this, that it's a huge opportunity he can't miss out on, and that their relationship is so strong that doing this isn't going to stop them. And then we know in the following season that they end up getting engaged. Oh gosh, I love all that too. It's so sweet. So, and they get married in season 5, so it's wonderful. So I love that. And then again, it's so great how so there are a couple moments that make me cry in this episode, that made me cry now rewatching it, even just standalone. But it's all the more emotionally impactful watching the entire season. But it's just so great how it's done. It stays on Leslie, the camera stays on Leslie, and Anne comes in, she says the recount is finished and it's still 21 votes. And then it's just a pause, staying on Leslie, disappointed. And then she says, but you won. Oh my God. Even saying it now just gets me choked up because it's beautiful. And then it just stays on Leslie, just the look on her face, the smile. It's like, you won, Leslie. She's like, Anne, that was really sneaky, Anne. And Ben looks up. It's just, oh my God, it's amazing. So all the subtleties of that are so beautiful. And then afterwards, when it's a whole huge celebration and you hear the song Catch Your Dream, which was a song that they created, that Andy made and they all worked on together. So it's so great him singing that. I love that too. And it's just a huge celebration. And I love Leslie's speech. And the second moment that makes me cry legitimately, it's beautiful too. And it just sums up the true strength of Ben and Leslie's relationship, how much they get each other, how perfect they are for each other, when he gives her victory speech and she says, someday when I'm more emotionally stable, I want to read the concession speech you wrote for me. And he says, I never wrote it. Come on, that's one of the, with these characters, I would say that's one of the most romantic things, I think, that he always believed in her. He never even wrote a concession speech. That's beautiful. And meanwhile, we see on TV Bobby Newport saying, honestly, I've never been more relieved in my entire life. So that's so funny too. But so then that's wonderful with Leslie and Ben. So then Leslie's speech is beautiful. And then it ends with, I love this city. And then she says how, when the speech is over, then she just kind of keeps going. And she says that no one achieves anything alone. And I'm going to do my best to serve all of you. And it's just so beautiful, too, when she puts a picture of herself against all of these other pictures of all these men that Leslie now is part of city council. So again, it's just all so rewarding to see as a viewer. And again, I just love these characters. I love Leslie Knope. She's just someone to truly admire and strive to be. So it's a really great, wonderful episode that is one of my personal favorites. It has the comedic stuff that we love about this show, it has the emotional stuff, and it has that true message of positivity and never giving up and always striving to be better, to do better, and that you can succeed, that you got to just keep going and keep doing everything you can and rallying behind the people that support you, and that, not letting yourself down. And it's just wonderful, and that no one more deserving than Leslie Knope. So just really wonderful. And again, I really love and admire these characters, and in particular Leslie. And as Leslie herself says, another line that truly resonates when she says, "No one achieves anything alone," that without the help and support of her friends, she wouldn't have been able to win, that this success, this victory is really about all of them. So showing that love and being so grateful for that support, it's just so wonderful. And again, just showing the true strength and power of how look what people can achieve when they work together. So it's really wonderful too that she acknowledges that. So that's another thing I love about Leslie and about the strength of all of these characters in particular. And also I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention, another one of my personal favorite recurring characters in this show, because he is in this episode, just briefly though, is Perd Hapley, played by Jay Jackson. He's so funny. That journalist and TV host who always talks in that same news cadence in any situation. And one of my favorite moments, it's not in this episode though, but it's when has no microphone. He's just talking to the camera and he says, "I'm Perd Hapley and I just realized I am not holding a microphone." It's so dumb. Like, you heard what's the word with purd, all those things. And then the word is, this is a news segment. Like, it's all this literal stuff. He's just so funny. So there's just so much great stuff in this show. So many great funny moments, but again, so many wonderful emotional moments too that I love so much. And again, just gotta love Leslie Knope. And with that, that's going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. Be sure to visit storytellingsaga.com and feel free to send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by emailing me at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next week, can the family understand the baby, or what's the deal with that? I will be discussing the first episode of Family Guy I ever watched, E Peterbus Unum. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.